The morning of April 19th, 1995, dawned with an unnerving sense of normalcy in Oklahoma City. Workers began their day at the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building, a hub of governmental activity. Children were dropped off at the America's Kids Day Care Center, their laughter echoing briefly in the hallways. At 9:02 a.m., a massive explosion tore through the north face of the building, shattering the peace forever. The blast was the equivalent of over 4,000 pounds of TNT, a force that registered on seismographs miles away. In an instant, the 9-story structure was transformed into a horrifying skeleton of concrete and steel. The attack claimed 168 lives, including 19 children, and injured hundreds more. It was, at the time, the deadliest act of domestic terrorism in American history. The nation watched in horror as rescue efforts began, a desperate search for survivors amidst the rubble. Within days, the investigation led to a former U.S. Army soldier named Timothy McVeigh. McVeigh was a decorated Gulf War veteran who had grown increasingly disillusioned with the federal government. He was particularly enraged by the federal raid on the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas, exactly 2 years prior. The official narrative quickly solidified. McVeigh was the mastermind, a lone wolf terrorist seeking revenge. His accomplice, Terry Nichols, was said to have helped prepare the bomb. A yellow Ryder truck, rented under a false name, was the chosen delivery vehicle for the devastating weapon. The bomb itself was a crude but powerful mixture of ammonium nitrate fertilizer and nitromethane racing fuel. McVeigh was arrested just 90 minutes after the bombing for a traffic violation and for carrying an unlicensed firearm. The connection to the bombing was made only after his name surfaced in the investigation. The government presented a seemingly airtight case built on forensic evidence and witness testimony. McVeigh was convicted and ultimately executed, never wavering from his responsibility, but hinting at a larger story. For many, however, the lone wolf explanation felt incomplete, a tidy summary for a profoundly messy event. Questions began to surface almost immediately, fueling theories of a wider, more complex plot. The most persistent question revolved around the mysterious figure known as John Doe #2. Multiple witnesses claimed to have seen McVeigh with another man on the morning of the bombing. Descriptions of this second man were consistent enough for the FBI to release a composite sketch. This sketch, however, was later officially retracted, with the FBI claiming the witness had mistakenly identified an innocent man. Yet the specter of John Doe #2 has never fully vanished from the narrative. Another significant anomaly was the seismographic evidence recorded at the time of the blast. Some experts, including a retired Air Force general, interpreted the data as showing 2 distinct explosions, not one. This theory suggests that bombs may have been placed inside the building, in addition to the truck bomb outside. Such a coordinated attack would have required a level of sophistication and access beyond a lone individual. The government's official report, however, firmly concluded there was only a single blast from the Ryder truck. Then, there's the matter of McVeigh's potential connections to a wider network of extremists. Evidence placed McVeigh in contact with members of the white supremacist and anti-government movements. One location of particular interest is Elohim City, a private, radical community in eastern Oklahoma. McVeigh reportedly made a phone call to Elohim City just 2 weeks before the bombing. The community was home to Andreas Strassmayer, a German national and former military officer with ties to neo-Nazi groups. Strassmayer, who some investigators considered a John Doe #2 suspect, was also a paid informant for the ATF. This revelation raises the disturbing possibility of government foreknowledge of the plot. Did federal agencies fail to act on intelligence that could have prevented the tragedy? Or, as some of the more extreme theories suggest, was there a level of complicity? The story of Carol Howe, an ATF informant inside Elohim City, adds another layer of complexity. Howe claimed she warned her handlers of a plot to bomb federal buildings, but her warnings were ignored. Her testimony was dismissed by the government as unreliable, but her story persists in the lore of the bombing. The physical evidence also presented its own set of puzzles. An unexploded bomb component was allegedly found in the rubble, suggesting a more complex device. The location of the Ryder truck's rear axle, a key piece of evidence, was also a point of contention. Some analysts argued its landing spot was inconsistent with the physics of the single bomb theory. Furthermore, McVeigh's own behavior contained contradictions. He was meticulously careful in planning some aspects of the attack, yet remarkably careless in others. His quick capture on a traffic stop seemed almost fated, or perhaps even intentional. Was this the sloppiness of a lone actor, or the planned exit of a man who wanted to be caught? The trial of Terry Nichols also left many questions unanswered. Nichols received a life sentence, escaping the death penalty because the jury could not unanimously agree on his direct role. This verdict itself implies a degree of doubt about the simple two-man plot. If the jury wasn't convinced, why should the public be? Over the years, journalists and independent researchers have continued to dig into the case. They have uncovered inconsistencies in witness testimonies and FBI reports. They have pointed to the convenient disappearance or death of several individuals connected to the case. The official story holds that these are coincidences, red herrings in a straightforward case. Critics argue it's a pattern that points to a deliberate cover-up. The narrative of the lone anti-government extremist is a powerful and politically useful one. It isolates the act, severing it from any connection to broader movements or potential state involvement. A wider conspiracy, especially one with ties to government informants, would be far more destabilizing. It would force a national reckoning with the nature of domestic extremism and the methods used to monitor it. Thus, the hidden truth of the Oklahoma City bombing may not be about a single, definitive answer. Perhaps the truth lies in the ambiguity itself, in the uncomfortable space between the official story and the lingering doubts. The lone wolf theory provides a sense of closure, a monster who was caught and punished. The plot theory, however, suggests the monster is still out there, or worse, that it was never what it seemed. It transforms a simple act of revenge into a complex web of intrigue, betrayal, and unanswered questions. Decades later, the bombing remains a deep scar on the American psyche. The memorial that now stands at the site is a place of quiet reflection. But for some, it is also a reminder that the full story of that day may never be truly known. The debate continues in documentaries, books, and online forums, a testament to the enduring power of doubt. Each piece of evidence is turned over and re-examined, each theory given new life. Was McVeigh a pawn in a much larger game, unaware of the forces moving him? Or was he the sole architect of the destruction, his narrative later co-opted by conspiracy theorists? Justice system delivered its verdict, but public certainty remains elusive. The story of John Doe Hash, too, continues to haunt the periphery of the case. Witnesses who claim to see him have been both discredited and defended over the years. The possibility of a foreign connection, though largely dismissed, still lingers in some theories. Links to Middle Eastern terrorist groups were investigated but officially ruled out. Yet, the speed of that dismissal has been a source of suspicion for some. The media's role in shaping the narrative is also a critical aspect of the story. The lone wolf angle was quickly adopted and broadcast, cementing it in the public mind. Alternative viewpoints were often relegated to the fringes, labeled as conspiracy. This created a feedback loop where the official story became the only credible one. The emotional weight of the tragedy made it difficult to question the established facts. A desire for simple answers and swift justice often outweighs the tolerance for ambiguity. The case of Michael Fortier, a friend of McVeigh's, further complicates the picture. Fortier knew about the plot, but failed to report it, later testifying against McVeigh in a plea deal. His testimony was crucial, but his credibility was attacked due to his own involvement in drug use. This reliance on a compromised witness is a weak link in the prosecution's otherwise strong chain. The government's handling of the Murat building site after the bombing also drew criticism. Swift demolition of the remaining structure was seen by some as a destruction of a crime scene. Evidence that could have supported or refuted the multiple bomb theory was gone forever. Officials maintained it was a necessary step for safety and to recover victims. This tension between recovery and investigation is a common thread in mass casualty events. The legacy of the bombing also includes a profound shift in American security. Federal buildings across the country were fortified, changing the landscape of public architecture. The attack also led to new legislation expanding federal surveillance and investigative powers. This expansion of power was itself a source of controversy, echoing the anti-government sentiment that motivated McVeigh. In a tragic irony, the response to the attack fed into the very paranoia that fueled it. The question of whether McVeigh acted alone is more than a historical puzzle. It speaks to a fundamental need to understand the why behind such a horrific act. If he was part of a group, what did that group represent? And could it exist and operate today? If he was truly alone, it presents a different, perhaps more terrifying, reality. It means that a single individual, fueled by ideology and anger, can inflict catastrophic damage. This possibility is, in many ways, harder to defend against than an organized group. The plot theory offers a villain with structure, a network that can be mapped and dismantled. The lone wolf theory offers chaos, a random variable in a complex society. Truth, whatever it may be, is buried under layers of evidence, testimony, and time. Some key figures who might have shed more light on the events are now deceased. Documents that could provide clarity remain classified, hidden from public view. Consumed. The story has become a modern myth, a cautionary tale with multiple possible morals. Is it a story about the danger of unchecked government power? Or is it a story about the venomous spread of extremist ideology? Perhaps it is a story about the fragility of truth in the face of trauma. The survivors and victims' families have had to live with this ambiguity for decades. For them, the philosophical debate is secondary to the raw, personal loss. The Oklahoma City bombing forced America to look at a darkness within itself. It was not an attack from a foreign enemy, but from one of its own. This internal threat is often the hardest to comprehend and confront. The narrative of the lone wolf, while perhaps incomplete, provides a necessary psychological buffer. It allows society to frame the event as an aberration, not a symptom. To accept a wider plot would be to accept a more systemic failure. The hidden truth, therefore, may remain hidden not because it is undiscoverable, but because it is unbearable. The final image of the bombing is not one of fire, but of questions. These questions linger in the quiet spaces of the memorial and in the minds of those who remember. Was justice truly served, or was only a fraction of the truth brought to light? The answer depends on who you ask and what you are willing to believe. The lone wolf narrative is clean, but the evidence is messy. The plot theory is complex, but it addresses the inconsistencies. Ultimately, the Oklahoma City bombing is a story with two endings. One is written in the official records of the United States government. The other is written in the persistent whispers of doubt that refuse to be silenced.